Good evening, I'm Jeff Koinange, and this is Jeff Koinange Live. Tonight, we put politics aside because we have a special guest on the bench, a guest you don't see every day, especially on a show like this. The fact that this young man, I say young because he was in my class in school, same class, same school. But obviously, some of us stayed in school and others didn't, because he has a double bachelor's in physics and math from Brown University. He's got a master's from Stanford University, an MBA from Emory. I mean, jeez, what were we doing? Smart young man. And he's written a book, his second. The last time he was on the bench, a few years ago, he had written a book called From Nairobi to Shenzhen. He's written another book now. And this is a man who literally calls the President of the United States, are you with me? Are we together? He calls him my brother from another mother, and means it, because they share the same father. You know who I'm talking about. His new book is called An Obama's Journey. It's an incredible book about self-discovery. In fact, there's a line in here, I have to tell you. He says, he was born in Kenya, lost in America, and discovered himself in China. So he's literally straddling 3 continents. And it's a book that you must read. It's going to be officially launched tomorrow, Thursday, here in Nairobi. And it's going to be available at Yaya Center. Go talk to Chand, my man. He'll get you this book. It's going to be, it is online on Amazon, on Kindle, you name it. And it's incredible. Take it from me, who thinks he can write, and yet I've met my match. Folks, Mark Okoth Obama Desanjo.
Jeff, it's an honor. It's an honor.
For the very first time, a guest has asked me to sit on the other side of the bench. It's never happened before.
Well, you know, we got to work on you, you know. But I had a bet in Shenzhen.
Yeah.
We couldn't get Jeff to the other side of the bench. And I won.
You won.
But it's an honor to be here.
It's great to see you, Mark.
Wonderful to be here.
You look great. And to think we were in the same class. I mean, clearly we were not in the same class. We were, I mean, theoretically.
We were.
You know, attendance was called, and we all said we were in class. But look at you, man.
Thank you.
You went on to become a phenom, man.
And you and your team and your team here and what you're doing here in Kenya.
Yeah.
It's a great team. And also you're making a difference, Jeff. I think that's something which we Saints people had. We wanted to make a difference in some way. We're doing it in our small ways, right?
In our own small way. Welcome back home, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
The book is phenomenal. I mean, I can't wait to really go through it with a fine-tooth comb. And everybody's going to be wondering about your relationship with your brother. That's the first thing. And you talk about it. I mean, this sets the scene for everything.
Yes.
Your brother, the President of the United States, Barack Obama.
Yes. And you know, the reason I wrote this book, there were 3 reasons, Jeff. The first is I wanted to tell my story myself and not have other people tell it for me, just like you did your book.
Yep.
The second reason was that I wanted to also talk a little bit about the Obama family, and you know, including my brother. A lot of people don't know about it. And for example, there's a family tree that explains a little bit about us going back to 1700. And the third thing is to talk about the issue of being multicultural, mixed race, that bumpy road across cultures in an increasingly global world across Kenya, America, and China.
Incredible. Incredible stuff. I mean, look, when we were in the same class, when we were in the same school, I didn't even know you were an Obama. Well, I didn't know. I think you were just Mark Desanjo. That guy who plays piano, you know, accomplished pianist and, you know, smart guy. You're a smart guy. And you played football now and then. You were pretty okay. You were right. Not as good as some of us, but you were right.
Yeah.
But that's all we knew. And then later on, we discovered this. And obviously, you and your brother have had a relationship.
Yes. You know, at that time, you know, for many, many years, I didn't want much to do with the Obama name. And because of the experiences that I had when I was young. But my mother was very fortunate because she married Simeon Desanjo, whom you've met, actually.
Indeed.
And he was a man with a big heart. And he made her 4 promises, one of which was to get me a piano, you know, when he married. And I took his name out of pride. And it was Barack, though, along with China in many ways, that changed that for me. And my book talks about that process of self-discovery. And also the pride that I felt for the first time in 30 years when I saw my brother and millions of people changing the world. A lot of that hard crust inside dissolved. And I became proud of the Obama name. And now, it's ironic because in many ways, the things that I'm doing right now, the music, helping kids to learn music, also trying to follow my dream, writing, I've been doing all my life. And I would have done them had he not been president. But what happened is that I realized I am an Obama, and I'm proud of it. And if I can use it in some way, particularly for social things, to make a difference in the lives of kids, for example, I have no hesitation in doing that.
You know, you mentioned the kids, and you have some cards from your kids in China.
Yeah, that's right.
And we'll put that up in a little while, because what you're doing, for the last dozen years, you've been teaching orphan kids in China to play not just the piano, but musical instruments.
That's
orphan
right.
kids.
That's right.
That's what you do.
You know, Jeff, the first week, you know, when I went to China, I lost my job in 911, as I talk about in the book. I was in America, I had a very good job. And 911 happened, the economy tanked. I had just completed my executive MBA at Emory University. They flew us to Asia, and I fell in love with this place. I'd been born in Kenya, I'd lived in America, and I wanted something completely different, and I wanted to escape the rat race. And I found myself in Shenzhen. I remember the first week I went to the orphanage because I wanted to help kids. I don't know why. My mother helps kids. My grandmother taught kids. I think it runs in our family. Granny Sarah has an amazing foundation that helps kids. Yes. And I wanted to change my life. I wanted to do something different. And what happened is, I remember that first week, I went to the second floor of the orphanage. I brought some money, some gifts for the kids, and I wanted to teach them to play piano. And I remember there was one big room with lots of cots inside and babies in each cot. This was 12 years ago in 2002. And I went up to one of those cots, and there was a little baby inside. And there was absolute silence in the room. I touched its hand, it grabbed my finger, its big black eyes looked up at me, and it would not let go. And I knew at that moment, this kid is not thinking, I'm black, I'm Kenyan, I'm American, I'm Chinese, I'm a musician, what religion, or whatever. It just wanted love. And there was a connection with the country at that moment. And every month, for about 2 times, I've been going there to teach the kids to play piano. And it's changed their attitude towards life completely. It's very fulfilling.
Wow, wow. It's fulfilling because you had a pretty tough childhood.
Yes.
People may be watching you.
I found my kids.
There you go. People may be watching you right now and saying, you know, he probably lived a privileged life, but your mom went through hell with your dad.
Yes.
The other day I had someone on the bench.
A brilliant man, though.
Yeah, very famous guy called Sal Davis. Very famous musician, and I hope Sal is watching, or somebody who knows Sal, call him, because I've got Barack Obama Sr.'s son here. And Sal used to own a club right on Koinange Street in the 60s and 70s called Sal's Night Spot.
Right.
And Barack Obama Sr. was a regular, sitting there at the bar with a Johnny Walker Black.
Wow. Johnny Walker, right. I still see the sign when I come back from the airport.
Do you?
It's still up there.
It's still up there.
In Nairobi.
And there's a chapter you write about that Johnny Walker Black. That was
Johnny Walker Black.
That was your dad's drink of choice.
That's right. And, you know, my story begins about 50 years ago, when Barack Obama Sr. went to Hawaii for his education. And that's where he met Stanley Ann Dunham, the president's mother. They fell in love, as you know, and got married. Shortly after that, Barack, the president, was conceived. They divorced shortly after that. He went to Harvard University to pursue his doctorate in economics. And that's where he met my mom, who was teaching. And they fell in love. He invited her back to Kenya, and a few months later, they were married in December of that year. And I was conceived shortly after. So it's a story that is about dreamers.
Yeah.
And, you know, but the thing is that my father was a brilliant man. There's no doubt about it. And he tried to make a difference. But and to think of the courage he and my mother had at that time. In America, over 20 states outlawed mixed race marriages. You know, this is the 1960s, in the middle of the civil rights and everything, and my mother followed her dream. She had never been on a plane before. Her friends said to her, Ruthie, you can't go there. Everyone is black. How can you go there? You know, really?
Yeah.
And she had never been on a plane before, and she took that plane to follow the man that she loved. Love is an amazingly powerful thing.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, you know, to kids, diplomas and intellectual brilliance don't have any currency. And I saw things when I was growing up that I don't ever want any kid to go through. You know, to see your mother being beaten is something which we don't talk about very much. People say that it's normal, but you know, the fact is domestic violence affects 30 to 40% of families around the world. People are ashamed, they don't want to talk about it, but I want a kid, if I have a kid who sees this interview with you, Jeff, and with others, and they say that even the president's family has had this problem, and we're not in an ivory tower, they will learn, they will be inspired by it. And I think that there's a good message to give, not only about the challenges that we had, but the achievements that we made in spite of those challenges.
Absolutely. And you know, it's great you mentioned your mother, and you know, I love your mom because
thank you so much.
This Madari, which she has had for the last, what is it, 3-4 decades?
3-4 decades.
Incredible. I mean, she's raised a whole generation of kids, including my own.
That's right.
But even in my book,
she's made a difference.
Yes, in my book, I talk about my mother a lot because she's the heroine in the book.
These women, aren't they incredible? You know, the women in our lives. You know, I'll mention Barack. His mother, you know, was a strong woman. These women are mountain climbers. I mentioned that in the book. You know, it's these, especially in mixed race families, because you know, in a mixed race family, you're covering. As I was growing up, I was white and black. And at the time, I really hated that because I felt people, and I know people called me half-caste or chotara, you know, and it hurt. And I'm a musician, maybe I'm more sensitive than many people. But I remember that my mother said to me once, she said, Mark, you know, you're not just half this and half that. You actually have two cultures. You are black and you are white. And that's a great blessing. And I didn't realize that until many, many years later. The ability to be in a culture and also outside of it, to this day. And the thing is that I think it helps us, it helps our children in this increasingly mixed race world to actually follow their dreams.
Absolutely.
Many things. You've got a wonderful family, Jeff, and you're a global citizen, and I think you also appreciate this.
And this kid of mine is going to grow up just like you. You know, hopefully not in a braver, you know, more tolerant world.
Yes.
You know, even though he is the mixed race.
Right.
You know,
he's blessed.
You know, there's so much to talk. I mean, the way you just mentioned your brother, you said Barack is like, you know, it's like some guy walking in the room, Barack. You know, it's like, you know, Mr. President, man. I mean, he's like the president of the most powerful nation. My goodness. You all talk.
It's extraordinary.
You all chat. I mean, people are probably wondering, you all chat? Do you chat?
Well, you know, out of respect for his feelings and his privacy, I've decided not to comment any further at the moment about our relationship. But in the book, you know, it was, first of all, I am so proud to have a brother like Barack who has done amazing things. You know, a lot of people expect him to do more than he can do. I mean, he's got more white hairs, that's for sure.
Yes, he has.
And he can't solve everything.
No.
But at the same time, I remember that at a very difficult time during the campaign, and I write about this in the book, it was Barack who said to me, and I was concerned that I was going to affect his campaign, you know, because of China and the influences of China and communism and all of that sort of stuff. And I remember that it was Barack who said to me, when I told him about, I'm sorry, I hope I haven't disappointed you in any way. And he said, don't worry, Mark. I always support you, and follow your own path. It will not affect me, it will not affect the election, but always follow your own path. And I've done that.
Wow. He told you that?
Yeah.
And you went to the first inauguration, did you?
Yes. I recall that in the book, too.
Do you? Yeah.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was amazing.
I mean, we all watched it live.
Oh, wasn't it? The energy in the air.
Oh, man. Despite the chill in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
On that January morning.
It was an amazing time. You know, there was this I was in Washington, D.C., and I remember the energy in the air. There was something positive. It was like the world was changing in many ways. The first black president of the United States, a Kenyan in spirit, through his father, you know, but an American nevertheless, a global person. And then at the same time, you know, the feeling that America can change itself in the middle of crisis. it has this amazing ability when it's about to collapse to reinvent itself. And America was able to do that. I remember going out on the streets, and there was this, the subways were so full. You know, I tried to get a subway up to where I was going, and I was pushed out. You know, I was pushed out. Yeah. You know, a friendly hand just pushed me out. I'm sorry, dude, you can't get on there. You know. And
did they know who you are?
No.
Did they know who you were?
No. And I wasn't trying to advertise it.
Yeah.
But I remember, you know, we took a cab. There were no cabs going into downtown for the inauguration, that day of the inauguration. I had my tickets, I had my invitation. I was staying with a friend, and as I recounted in the book. And I managed to coax a cab driver into trying to go through the police gauntlet, because all of the roads were closed around Washington, D.C. Yeah. And he took pity on me, I think. And a very nice fellow. Yeah. And we went through these deserted highways towards the Capitol. And there were police cars on the sides of the road, and we were stopped by a police car right as we were getting in. And I remember the police officer came in, he looked through, and he said, "I'm sorry, sir, you can't go any further. We're closing up the Capitol. You'll have to turn back." And this was like 1 hour before he's about to get the vows as President of the United States. And I had never told anybody, even the cab driver, exactly why I wanted to go. But then I said, "Excuse me, officer, I have to get there. I've got tickets. I have to. The president is my brother." And it was really weird. It was like all of a sudden there was this silence. And you know, the police officers, you know, they look at you and they generally have some sort of expression on their face. It was like it froze for a moment. And this Caucasian police officer and this Middle Eastern cab driver and all of these other policemen who were surrounding the car, it's like there was like 5 seconds of complete silence. And then I said, he said, "Excuse me?" And then I said, I've got an invitation to go to the White House, to the Capitol to see my brother being inaugurated. And he said, "I can show you my tickets if you'd like." And I handed my tickets to him, and then he looked at me very close. He said, "Forget it. You look like him. Go." And he said, "We're going to radio up ahead to make sure that you get through."
And they did?
They did.
And you went all the way through?
We went all the way through. And then what happened is there were these tanks. The next thing were all these tanks, you know, outside the Capitol, right? And there was one officer, I mentioned this in the book too. It was so amazing. First of all, the police officers just waved us through, okay? Because this guy had already called them up. And I guess he believed me, which is wonderful. The goodness of America. And then what happened is we pulled up beside this big tank. This big steely tank, you know, as an M4 or whatever it was. And this black soldier came up to me and said, "I'm sorry, sir, you can't go any further." Apparently he hadn't got the news. No, actually he got the news, because someone at that moment called him. And then he said to me, "Oh, please go on ahead, sir. And if you see your brother, please tell him we hate don't ask, don't tell. Everybody in the military hates that." That's what he said. And I said, "Thank you very much. Thanks for your support." I didn't say I was going to tell Barack. So, and then it was smooth sailing, and then we went to the service.
Mark, it was really gutsy.
It was an amazing experience.
It was gutsy of you to tell these police officers, "I'm going to my brother's inauguration." Because anyone would have just said, "Yeah, right. Now you're all brothers, right?" Right.
No, I said, it's my brother. And he said, "You look like him." Go on.
And he is your brother.
Me. And I had the tickets there, but he didn't even offer to look and inspect them.
And he is your brother?
He's my brother.
From another mother.
That's right. It's not that I look like Barack. Barack looks like me. Don't forget that. Don't forget that.
Nice. That's what I call our president, but, you know, he gives me a dirty look every time I say that.
I understand.
You got to pick up this book, folks. An Obama's Journey. Mark Okoth Obama Desanjo. My classmate, I can proudly say that. And he's written about his family, about growing up in Kenya, about getting lost, losing himself in America, and finally rediscovering himself in China. Literally straddling 3 continents and doing some amazing things in China, which he wants to translate here in Kenya. We'll talk about that in the break. I can see the tweets going off the hook. At Koinange Jeff, the hashtag is JKL. I'll just put hashtag Obama. I mean, What the hell? What's he gonna do?
Koinange. Koinange. We're gonna make it Koinange.
Jeff Koinange Live takes a break. We'll be back in a moment.
Man, that was intense.
Sweet stuff,
That was intense.
man.
You just move it through. Just move it through.